What we're doing today is going through the process of inspecting a house for the H2A housing and going through some of the basics of not only what to look for, areas and how to measure rooms, and to figure if the bedding is the proper amount needed for the number of workers that the employer has requested. But also to kind of give you a general idea of what the property, what the housing, the condition that it should be in, what to look for, some little areas to kind of be aware of that might be challenges and that you might face as you do the inspecting. One of the first things that you do when you arrive at a property, it would be important to look not only at the general overlay of the house as far as the land that it's on, but see what's occurring around the house. Is there any kind of sign of debris standing around? Any kind of drainage problems, such as puddles of water, things of that nature that might create issues for the house, for the workers in the house. It's little things like this that we want to make sure that we keep the farmer in compliance on issues such as this. One of the first things when you come to a house is look at the door going inside. Here we have a standard storm door with screening that does not have holes in it. This would be acceptable. It's one of the first things that you should be looking for. One of the first things to kind of give you an indication of what's happening in the house. Also look around the house at the windows. Are there any obvious signs of leakage or problems, or maybe some rot in wood or things of that nature? Anything along that lines that throws up a red flag that could be an issue later on as far as problems for the workers who are going to be living here for up to as much as 10 months. And let's go inside now. One of the most important aspects of the H2A housing inspection is the paperwork. And now that we've talked about the outside of the house and some issues that might arise there, we come into the kitchen area where food preparation takes place. The first thing that you would need to do is to check the stove, make sure that all the burners work. Normally, the oven unit, we want to make sure that works as well. Check the refrigerator, make sure that both the freezer and the refrigerator part are working properly, that there's no overbearing odors or things of that nature that might be signs of mold or other kinds of bacterial problems that could arise. Anytime that you see a deficiency or a problem with an appliance, not only make the farmer, the homeowner, aware of the situation so that they can repair it, but make a notation about it so that in your documentation as you're preparing the housing inspection form, that it does reflect that in the statement, in the form. And now another area to always be checking is that of the plumbing, the sink, and which we have over here. When you're looking at the kitchen, the kind of water supply that is provided is also important as well. Make sure that it's not only running water, but it's running consistently, and that it has a sufficient amount of strength to it, that it has at least 35 gallons of pressure. In other words, it's not dripping out of the faucet, but it's running. Also, that the hot water is hot. It may take a few moments for it to warm up, but it's important that we make sure that they do have running hot water. It's also good to check under the sink to look for any kind of leaks from the pipes to ensure that there aren't any problems there. Okay. Two of the most important tools that an inspector can use is that of his pen and measuring tape. One of our most important aspects of the housing inspection is measuring the bedroom to make sure that there is enough capacity, bed space, for the number of workers that the farmer may be requesting. For single beds, the farmer is allowed to have 50 square feet per bed. If there are bunk beds, it is 40 square feet per bed. And there has to be at least 36 inches space between. This is one of the reasons in this situation where an adjustment would need to be made to the bed. The bed could be turned sideways and put up against the wall in order to be in compliance. The beds are also to be at least 12 inches off the floor for ventilation purposes. Another thing that we need to look at when we go into a room is smoke detectors. Do the smoke detectors work? Is it an area where a smoke detector is needed? It's recommended that smoke detectors be placed not only in hallways, but near kitchen areas and all where the possibility of fires could occur. If there are rooms that have windows such as this, always be sure to check the window and make sure that there are no holes in the screening. We talked about this before, but it's an issue that every time that you run across a window in a room, it needs to be looked at to make sure that it is adequately not only ventilated, but that room is ventilated as well properly. When we measure a room, we want to be sure that we get an accurate measurement both of the length and the width of the room as well as the height of the ceilings. We're not in the business of estimating. We need to be as accurate as possible, both for paperwork's sake and for the benefit of the farmer. We want to make sure that we have the most reliable information available about the housing that the farmer is asking us to inspect. When we measure a room, we want to make sure that we measure from wall to wall, both lengthwise and widthwise. We want to make sure that we calculate properly the square footage so that we can make sure that the farmer has the proper amount of bedding in that space. We want also to make sure that the ceiling is the proper height. It must be a minimum of 7 feet. It cannot be any lower than that. On ceilings where you may have varied sizes, you may have one end that is a little bit lower than the other, or you may actually have like a pinnacle or an arch. You want to always measure from the lowest point. This way, we always have a reliable, accurate measurement and a standard that we use when we are measuring.